Hi everybody. This is take number 5, I think. So far we've had people come to visit, we've had phone calls interrupting, and as I said, we don't know how to edit properly. So we're going to do this yet again, which is why I keep getting further and further into the recipe, and so we're starting all over again. Beef and broccoli, that's what we're making today. Good recipe, fast recipe, uses some of the ingredients that you had last week, so it builds on that, same techniques, good to know. First thing I want to tell you though, when you're buying your beef, go to the grocery store, look for the 30% off sticker. Just means that they packaged it a couple of days ago, they've got to move it out. It's perfectly good meat and you'll save yourself 30%, at least if you go to the superstore. That's the way that works. When you're buying meat that you are using for stir fries, especially beef, your tougher cuts of beef are what you want to use. They have the most flavor and they're the easy ones to work with. Take it home, throw it in the freezer for an hour, pull it out, makes it nice and easy to slice, super thin, which is what you want when you're doing a stir fry, so that it A, soaks up the marinade, B, cooks fast, and C, isn't really chewy and hard. So you're gonna cut it across the grain. I've explained this so many times now, I honestly don't know what I'm saying anymore, so bear with me. Beef comes, has a grain, and you cut it across so that it's not tough. So this is, yeah, we've started already a couple of times. But you need to have broccoli, vinegar, soy sauce, onions, ginger, sugar, cornstarch, pepper, oil, salt. So let's go back to the slicing it. You can see I cut it in half, and so that these are bite-sized pieces. You're gonna cut it nice and thin, just like this, so it cooks up quickly. And this was frozen, and now it's not, so it's getting a little harder to slice. Okay, back to this. If you keep it super, like almost frozen, it's really, really easy to cut it into nice thin slices. Okay, going through there. Okay, so that's the first step, is to get your meat prepared and get it into the marinade. It doesn't need a long time to marinate, just a little bit so that it absorbs some of the flavors of the soy sauce. There we go, we're all sliced up now. I just have to adjust my computer again a little bit. So, got it all sliced up. We are going to put it into a bowl. Yeah, snap. Right here to get it started on the marinade. And then we're gonna add the soy sauce, 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can measure 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can also know that 4 tablespoons equals 1/4 cup. So we're going to measure in 1/4 cup of soy sauce, even though the recipe says 4 tablespoons. We are going to put in a teaspoon of sugar. That's that going in there. And we are going to put in, unlike the last recipe did, where we put the cornstarch into the liquid, we're actually putting it into the meat marinade this time. Same principle though, it's gonna cook up nice and clear. And remember, we talked about it being in a cold liquid instead of a hot liquid, so there you go. And then we're going to put in a tablespoon of vinegar. That gives it that nice bright, acidic taste. You can use balsamic vinegar, you could use a little white wine, you could use sherry. We just happen to have vinegar, and I know that you have a lot of vinegar too. So there's that, all ready to go. We're gonna set that aside, and then we're gonna get our broccoli all chopped up. This is your head of broccoli. I, myself, like the stalks. I always used to call this the trees and the trunks when I was little. One of those things that you remember as a child. So you can prepare this a couple of ways. I know when you go to Sky Dragon or Hans for your beef and broccoli, they do it in big long pieces like this. I frankly find it hard to eat. So I like to chop it up into bite-sized pieces. There's my phone going. We're just going to ignore that. Talk to my daughter later. Slice this up into good bite-sized pieces. The key to stir frying is that you have your pieces are all sort of uniform size so that everything cooks together at the same rate. You don't overcook something, because there's nothing worse than, you know, half cooked something and not cooked something else. So this is all going to be chopped up nicely. There's our broccoli already. I'm going to head over to the frying pan. I'm going to take the onion and the ginger with me though. Got a grating. And when you get to the ginger part, remember we talked about keeping it in the freezer, not peeled. Then all you have to do is grate it. Super easy to use that way. So we're going to head over to the frying pan with the salt and the oil. We're going to turn the frying pan on. And remember, get the pan hot before we add our oil. So that'll just take a moment. I'm going to actually bring everything over here now. I need the beef. Okay. So, hand over the thing. Pot's nice, pan's getting nice and hot. So we're going to put in a little bit of oil. Not all of the oil that the recipe calls for, just part of it. And we are going to put in, what did I do with my, oh, I've lost my stir stick. There it is. Broccoli's going in the pan. I'm gonna get this. Stir frying's always done over high heat, very quickly and fast. If you have a wok, perfect. I don't have a wok. I've just always used a frying pan. But what I want you to notice is how this starts to change. Broccoli is one of those things that starts out, it's beautiful green, but when you add heat to it, it gets really bright, bright green. And that's when you want to stop the cooking, because if you go over that, then it gets gray and mushy and yucky. We're going to salt the broccoli as well. Good little bit of salt in there. And we'll just notice how it starts to get, as we heat it up, you can see it'll get quite a bit brighter. A little bit of oil in there. Keep it moving. That's how you heat, high heat saute. You can let it sit for a sec. You can hear it starting to sizzle away. Just like that. You don't want it overcooked. You still want it really nice and crisp. High heat, a little bit of oil is the key. You see how it's getting brighter? Sometimes if you're using broccoli for something else, a good way to make this happen is to blanch it. So you can take your broccoli, you can pop it into a pot of boiling water for a minute, watch it get all beautiful and bright green, bring it out of the boiling water, run it under cold water to stop the cooking, and then you can hold it and use it for something else, like a broccoli salad or something like that. You see how bright that's getting? Look at that. Okay, coming along nicely. The pieces are all fairly uniform, so it'll all cook at the same time. This is good. Okay. Shouldn't take you more than about 2 or 3 minutes. I keep saying, I know I sound like a broken record, but you really don't want to overcook this. So, I think we're probably pretty darn good right about now. It should be nice and hot. So we're going to put it into a bowl just to set it aside. And then we're going to add a little bit more oil. And then we're going to put in our onions that I forgot to chop. So I'm going to grab my knife. And we'll do the onions while we're over here. So we've also talked about onions, leaving the stem end on, peeling it. Easy way to get in here. And that way it stays together. Oopsie. Remember using your claw finger to hold the thing in place. Sometimes you gotta hold it together like that. And then you just have to slice it off and boom, there's your onion. So you want it sliced again nice and thin because you want it to cook quickly. You can hear it sizzling away. I'm gonna get some more onion in there. Okay, get some more onion. Now your recipe doesn't call for garlic, but if you have it, you can certainly add it. You see, those are starting to brown already. I'm going to turn the fan on a little tiny bit. It's going to be really noisy at first, and I'll turn it down just to get it, because you can see all that lovely heat, right? It's smoking like crazy. So I apologize for the noise, but we don't want to smoke everybody out either. So you've just, now we've talked too about cooking onions to from opaque, which means you can't see through them, to translucent, which is what these are becoming. You can see they're starting to get clear. See, some of them are opaque, some of them are translucent. So that's good. We're shuffling it all together. Fasten around. I'm going to throw in a little bit more oil, just because I feel like it needs a little bit more. This is just vegetable oil, a really neutral flavored oil. You do have sesame oil. I know I've given you that. You could put a couple teaspoons, or not a couple teaspoons, just a few drops of sesame oil would give it a nice flavor. If you like the sesame oil. If not, you don't have to. Okay, so now the onions are done. Now we're going to add the beef. So we're going to stir this up again so that the cornstarch gets redistributed. Okay, just like that. And then in goes the beef. Get that stirred up. All the juices from the beef. We've got to add our ginger. Remember, we grate the ginger in. Super easy if it's frozen. I like a lot of ginger. You can read what the recipe calls for, or you can put in more. There's our beautiful ginger in there. And we are going to cook this really quickly. Saute it up. Sometimes your meat doesn't have a lot of juice, and so you don't get a lot of sauce. So you can always add a little more water, beef broth if you have it, to give it flavor. I try to add that before I add water, because water doesn't add any flavor to it at all. Get this cooking away nicely. You see how that's all changed, and you can see it's thick. It's got your sauces developing, it's coating everything, which is what you want. We're going to let this sit for a minute, cook out some of the juice out of the meat. You don't want to overcook it though, because you don't want it dry. So we're just going to let that sit for a minute. I think I'm going to end up adding a bit of water to it. I'll have it at the ready, just in case we need it. But you can see the sauce is starting to bubble. So the meat's releasing its juices. And as that happens, it gets thickened from the cornstarch. Oh, this is looking delicious. I think we are close to being ready. I think I am going to add just a little bit of water, just a touch. Because we want to have enough sauce on it to coat the broccoli too. So, there, that's better. That's better. Okay, so we're all good there. Now we're gonna add our broccoli back in. Beautiful bright green broccoli. And stir that up a little bit so that all we're really doing is reheating the broccoli, coating it with some of that yummy sauce. And then it is ready to be served. How about that? If you have some sesame seeds, you can garnish it with that. Serve it on a bed of rice. I made a note in the recipe. I grew up eating this on egg noodles. Don't ask me why. My mom always served it with egg noodles. And that's kind of the way I like it, which not terribly Asian, I know, but it's just one of those things. So there you go, my friends. Easy peasy beef and broccoli. We talked about you can add cauliflower to it, you can add carrots to it if you like. Just make it an all-around peppers, red peppers. Can you imagine how beautiful those would look in here? This is traditional beef and broccoli, but you can use it as a base for your imagination and go from there. It's also really good with pork. You can do it with chicken. Again, you can go vegan if you want, tofu instead of the beef. All of those things will work, and we are good to go. We're gonna take that off the thing, serve it with some rice, and yeah, dinner is served. So I'll see you all next week. Take care. Can't wait to see your pictures. Bye.